This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome everybody to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is your Royal Rumble Go Home show or prediction show. I'm not sure what we're calling it, but it's the show before the Royal Rumble. We've got a ton. We had to leave stuff on the cutting room floor. That's how much we have. This episode is jam-packed. We're going to talk about this WWE star saying no to WWE, as well as Finn Balor saying, look, I'm done with the politics. We've got the inside scoop on all those things, as well as taking a look at what took place this week in wrestling. AEW made a ton of noise this week. Of course, we've got the Royal Rumble predictions. It's got a jam-packed show, and let's just kick this off with WWE and what took place on Raw and SmackDown. Doing it with me, as always, he's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Cuz, what's going on tonight? Royal Rumble, Doc and Jock will unite. We'll have a good time. We are going to watch and partake and enjoy the festivities surrounding the Royal Rumble. Real quickly, my relative is there. And you know when you have that feeling like, okay, because your relative got invited by somebody else, you're like, okay, there's a small chance. When he told me he was going to St. Louis, I'm like, right when they landed last night, I said, where are you guys staying by chance? And he didn't say. He's like, we just landed, bro. Relax. I'm like, okay, because my gut told me, if you're invited, you might be staying near the arena, which means you're going to be near wrestlers. And right away to get the photos of my nephew hanging out with Riddle, Ric Flair walking in. It's cool as hell. I can't wait till my little 11 and 8-year-old nephews come back and tell me what it was like to meet Riddle. And you've seen the photo. Riddle has a unique look that kind of portrays what his hobbies are. But it just must be a great experience to be in the hotel with the wrestlers, the vibe around one of the biggest events of the year. It's the Royal Rumble. I'm coming stacked with 2 belts. I'm the Universal Inter-Promotional Champion. I can't wait to enjoy the night tonight. It's going to be a good time, and I hope you guys enjoy this broadcast, baby. WWE kicked it off, I thought, with a decent go-home show. I thought that, in regards to a gimmick in regards to Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. I'm not sure your sense of it, but I would have maybe gone away from a weigh-in. It was funny, it was good, but I just felt like you could have just had them stare down and maybe just have a pseudo 2-minute wrestling match. But a weigh-in, is WWE's form of entertainment. It's either the contract signing, it's either a stare down and stuff and something like that. But what did you make of it? I thought that intro to Raw was decent, at least, and it was short, just 10 minutes.
Yeah, I thought it was a good intro in just kind of a way to get you caught up on everything that's going on and to really get you invested in this story between Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. I don't like the weigh-ins either. This is a sport where basically weight limits don't exist, and they're not taken seriously. And I think that was the thing that was trying to get conveyed here. Throughout this entire build between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar hasn't taken Bobby Lashley seriously at all. And if you look at a lot of the writing for Bobby Lashley, it hasn't really given Bobby Lashley a leg to stand on. And so I'm not 100% sure what WWE is going to do here, because Brock Lesnar, obviously, he's the man. It goes Roman Reigns and it goes Brock Lesnar. Those are your two guys in WWE. And Brock Lesnar has been given all of the ammunition, while Bobby Lashley has basically been sent out to play with squirt guns. So it's weird because you've got Bobby Lashley dressed up in basically workout gear and strips down. You've got Brock Lesnar dressed up like a Western Canadian cowboy. And it's just, he's basically making a mockery of the entire thing. Even when Corey Graves is like, Mr. Lesnar, you might want to take some of those items off. He's like, you want me to strip for you? Implying, making like an overtly gay reference. It was weird. I think it worked. They've got to be building to something a little bit bigger here because, like I said, throughout the entire build of this whole thing, Brock Lesnar has gotten everything. Bobby Lashley has been basically pushing a boulder up the side of a mountain, and it looks like it's about to fall over a cliff. So I'm not really 100% sure what they're doing here. All that being said, I thought Raw was a better go-home show than SmackDown. I felt like SmackDown show up until it's just like last week, up until like the last 10, 15 minutes, I was kind of like, what the hell's going on here? This is supposed to get me excited. A couple of things I took away from the SmackDown show. We're 6 months in. And does anybody really know what Sonya Deville's beef is with Naomi? Nobody knows. Big E abruptly gets switched to SmackDown. Like, there was no draft, there was no nothing. All of a sudden, he is now part of SmackDown's property, and he's no longer part of Raw's property. To me, it just felt like SmackDown was just throwing stuff at the wall to see whatever stuck, up until we got to Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And at that part, I think Seth Rollins has done such an incredible job at conveying this maniacal, crazed, almost Joker-esque character. And he makes Roman Reigns uncomfortable, and he preys on Roman Reigns. Like, it's weird to see Roman Reigns uncomfortable because Roman Reigns has done such a good job of getting this. He's like, I'm in God mode now. He's this guy who is above it all. He's a guy who doesn't sweat with anything. Even when the Usos are out there constantly losing matches that put him in bad spots, he never sweats any of it. And Roman Reigns like seems to push nerves with him and step on these insecurities with him. And I find it to be a really interesting play. I find Seth Rollins' character to have so much depth and to be so different, and to see him interact with Roman Reigns, I think is fantastic. I think it's something that we've all wanted since the Shield broke up. You wanted to see these guys pull from that history and pull from that and just kind of give it to each other. And I think we're getting that. And I'm loving the Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and I love this build that we have towards the Royal Rumble tonight. What do you think of this build, and what do you think of what Seth Rollins has been able to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the greatest work of his career. And I think the reason is probably because it's an amped up version of the best character that he can have. And I think that's how you tap into something, is when a wrestler that you can believe is a little bit maniacal, is a little bit devious, is somebody that, recall, was the instigator in the Shield breaking up. So I think that some of the reasons that people felt like Seth Rollins would be a 5-tool player is you can give him characters that he can chomp into. Some people, and sometimes I do believe this, WWE gives you shitty characters just to see how much you can take it and what kind of team player are you. And if you can take a gimmick that Vince gives you that you absolutely hate and you can work it and you can do something with you, then maybe they'll say, okay, look, let's kind of switch gears a little bit and let's give him something that potentially could make some money. And Seth Rollins is money. I think this feud is going to pay off, and that's why I'm really excited for tonight. There's so many matches that I look at and say, okay, this is worthy of a Royal Rumble, highlighted by Lashley and Lesnar. And, on the other side of the coin, on Raw, Kenny had mentioned something in our group chat, which you must add Adam S to at some point or create a separate one, and we can go back and forth and get confused in which wrestling groups we're in. He said that, when he saw Lashley's attire, he's like, well, now Lashley's this badass guy. And he felt like throughout the course of the build-up here that they portrayed Lashley like 3 different characters. And I get that sense that, he was a suit guy, then he's a physical guy, then he's a street clothes guy. But in my mind, Bobby Lashley just kind of overriding everything just represents a tough dude. And I don't care if he's in a suit or I don't care if he's in street clothes. The bottom line is the inherent underlying issue. The issues are it's Bobby Lashley taking on Brock Lesnar for supremacy, a match that everybody wanted to see. I felt like in any kind of build-up, it was going to be pretty much okay because it's a match that everybody's anticipated and wants to see. I think everybody's excited. Everybody wants to see what's going to happen. I think we know what's going to happen, but I'm okay with the many different versions of Lesnar and Lashley because bottom line, it's just 2 big dudes that have never fought before.
Yeah, it's been weird the way Bobby Lashley has been portrayed through this entire thing. I think this is going to be a fantastic match. And remember when we were talking about what Bobby Lashley wanted when he came back to WWE. It was this one match. This was the one thing that he had written into his contract. It was, I must be able to face Brock Lesnar at some point. And we're going to get that. I think for this Royal Rumble, and you're right, it's been a long time. I was trying to explain this to Alyssa the other day. It's been a long time since you've had a Royal Rumble where you're excited about it. Like, I'm excited about this Royal Rumble. Last year's I wasn't very excited about. The year before that I wasn't very excited about. And we do a good job sometimes selling these things, but neither one of us, I think, had a lot of juice going into it. This one, I feel like there are endless possibilities with different things that they can do, and that makes me excited. I was driving home last night from work, and I was like, man, we got to really, like, I'm going through things in my head, right? Because my brain just doesn't ever stop. And I'm constantly show prepping stuff for us. And I'm like, this is going to be a good Royal Rumble. Like, I feel like this is going to be one of those ones where we look back and we're like, yeah, that was a really good one. That it might crack the top 10. And I'm excited for this show tonight. And that hasn't happened in a couple of years. Every now and then you'll get a pay-per-view and you're like, man, this has all the makings to be great. And it's usually a clunker, and you're okay with that because you're like, whatever. But this one feels a little bit different. This one, going into it, they've done a really good job, I think, of building some intrigue with some of these matches. And look, I don't think their go-home shows were great by any means, but I think that they've done enough of a good job with a lot of this groundwork, especially with the two big feuds that they have between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, that it gets you interested. On top of that, you've got the battle royals for the men and the women. And I think that right there is what's going to help sell this show and what's going to make this show something that's really, really interesting. Before we move into who we think might be some surprise entrances in the Royal Rumble, I'm just going to throw some names out. We're just going to kind of spitball it. I want to know what your thoughts were. You brought up Matt Riddle in the very, very beginning of the show because your nephew got to meet him the other night. How good has Matt Riddle been with this comedy and working with Randy Orton? And to counter that, you've got a guy like Chad Gable, who in my estimation has been given a lot of crap. Like, he just hasn't been given good stuff. But this week on Monday Night Raw, Chad Gable looked like an absolute star. He looked absolutely incredible. And you're right. Kenny says a lot of really intelligent things in our group chat. And Kenny's like, he looks like a younger Kurt Angle. And I think that's the most spot on, accurate description of what Chad Gable is. Maybe a little bit more animated and maybe a little bit more fun, because in my recollection, Kurt Angle was a lot of business. There were times where he was fun, but when I think Kurt Angle, I think business. I think getting things done. It might have just been because of what I watched when I watched him on Impact. But Chad Gable, I think, has been doing an incredible job, and I think Matt Riddle has really been the backbone and been the most interesting thing on Monday Night Raw for a long stretch of this build to the Royal Rumble. What do you think about these two guys in the work that they have been doing?
Now, I wasn't a fan of the spelling bee bit when they did it on Raw, but I get it.
That's bad writing. Like, that's just a bad bit.
Because exactly, everyone kind of felt like the other characters maybe were over scripted and things like that, or maybe that was the intention. But look, to be honest, you're absolutely right. In ring is where, Gable shines, and the work that they've done is great because of the fact that him and Otis do have a long-standing relationship. So this is just a play on their friendship, and moving forward, many people wondered what happened to Otis after the Mandy Rose situation. Maybe they felt like he plateaued or took a step backward, but he reinvented himself, and this is another one of those gimmicks where, hey, you go out there and you make the best of it, and it's actually playing out well. I think that everybody involved kind of has a sense that, okay, Gable and Otis have a great chance to be successful tag teams. And I think when you look at it, the other competition has emphasized tag teams, and WWE kind of, goes in and out in regards to the emphasis on tag teams. But as of late, in the past few months, you're starting to see the emergence of the Usos to be featured with Roman Reigns. You're starting to see, obviously, Riddle to give credit to what he's done. Randy Orton embraced RK Bro when he didn't have to. This is a world-class superstar on the level of Triple H, and he's doing bits with, the guy that's kind of like the court jester, but really funny and engaging and that people like. So by and large, the credit that you can give them is they're making, and Gable and Otis are part of a tag team that's making the division relevant on Raw. And when you see them, whether you like it or you don't, it's intriguing, and that's the credit you can give them.
Yeah, I think the way that they have made the tag team division interesting, and they've basically carried it themselves, so much so that you now have guys like Otis and Gable involved, and now they're interesting. I think that says a ton to what they've been able to do. Now, I think at this point, we've got, 22, maybe 20, 25 men and women announced for each the men's and women's Royal Rumble. Who do you think are some surprises that we could see at this year's Royal Rumble? Because there's been a lot of rumor, a lot of speculation. Ronda Rousey might be back at this one.
Exactly.
I think she's the big name. Who else do you think will make an appearance in this Royal Rumble?
I would think if they were wise, they would find somebody from Ring of Honor that people liked. I think maybe, what they've kind of done is they've found, and for me personally, I think, you just shatter the wall. Wouldn't it be amazing? Now, this is my dream scenario. This is never probably 1 in a million chance, but wouldn't it be great if Cody Rhodes showed up to the Royal Rumble? You need to have it. I know that they're competitors and there's no benefit to each company to work together, but look, it's bottom line. There has to be a mutual respect because now AEW features so many creators and backstage producers, now wrestlers that have been from WWE. There's an influence in the company in regards to the top with Moxley, with Bryan Danielson, CM Punk. You need to have a little spice, and even to tease it. Even if you just played the music, but he doesn't come out. I think that would be sweet if it was a dream AEW Forbidden Door performer that showed up there. I think it would be sweet. But, I'm hearing the same thing. Ronda Rousey's the big name. I'm thinking maybe potentially an older wrestler that was there. You might see Hurricane Helms, kind of along those lines. Somebody that people respect that's been out of the game for a minute. There's only like 3 or 4 spots. So some nostalgia will play in. I wonder if there will be somebody like the most recent pass was MVP. When he showed up, he got in the ring and became a valet. Others have kind of come for a bit, like a little bit of a run, like Carlito and things like that. I could see that as well, but, it's St. Louis. So could you, for me, the one part of the Rumble that I kind of don't like is the circus aspect with Johnny Knoxville. That I'm not impressed with. Does he invite any of his friends? Do you have his boy, the other one that was, the wild one that was Steve-O?
Steve-O.
Yeah. Do you have one of his compadres show up to continue the circus? I'm not sure, but I'm excited to see. And that's the intrigue, is the countdown. But I'm definitely fascinated to see the surprises. I'm curious, what do you think? Who shows up? What would be something crazy that would mark you out?
Look, I think Ronda Rousey it's almost like a 99% that she shows up. I think you get Asuka makes a return. Yep. Bayley might make a return. Remember, she was kind of being fast-tracked. It's surprised that Sasha Banks made an appearance on SmackDown last night. And her and Bayley were supposed to be on the same timeline. So you could get Bayley involved in this match as well. So you get some returning superstars there. Possibly Kairi Sane gets a call back to come and compete in this match. Remember, she left WWE to go back to Stardom over in Japan. As far as the men go, I would expect to see a guy like an LA Knight, to see a Tommaso Ciampa. You get some of those guys who are part of that black and gold brand of NXT, and they basically have gone as far as they can go. Expect to maybe see them put into the Royal Rumble and expect to see them get used. As far as a big name for the men, I can't really think of anybody. I think Cody Rhodes would be the one, right? But at this point, I don't know if that makes anything difficult between Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes. Remember, Cody Rhodes is working without a contract. He's basically working on a handshake deal. And I don't know if that makes things.
No, you have to get approved. No, as a performer and an executive, you'd have to get it cleared. And
well, you would have to for sure. And Tony, but I don't know how that works. Like, I think it would be great. I think it would get everybody talking.
Yeah, Tony would approve it. He's a mark. Tony's not stupid. look, it's competition, and really, bottom line, AEW has positioned themselves to be different than WWE. AEW is
True.
Wrestling, storytelling, a little bit more old school WCW shock, a little bit of unique situation with a promoter that is also a huge mark and has a lot of fun. So it's just completely different. WWE is corporate. Look, let's hit all the kids. Let's hit every revenue dollar. Let's take every penny that a company will give us. It's totally different. So in the end, I think that's what it needs to be. Two different, separate brands. So I don't think it hurts. I think it helps because you really should have one night only every single year where it is a AEW and WWE card. And I think it would sell and everybody would make money. And that's the idea, is to keep wrestling going. The undercurrent of competition is there to just get people to talk. And it's that there. I mean, Tony Khan has funds galore. So he can do what he's got to do. So it would be great to do it. But I think it's great. Maybe even an Impact star, somebody like a Christian, so that has a tie, potentially. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I agree. NXT might be the crew that takes up some of the slots.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting, that's for sure. There's a lot of directions they can go. Let's jump into our predictions now.
Here we go.
We've basically wiped the slate clean. It's 0-0. We're starting brand new. I think going forward, because we just been kind of playing this by the seat of our pants when we do the scores. I think every year we start fresh at the Royal Rumble, starting now. This will be the third iteration of keeping track of who's won what in what capacity. I think from now on, basically the new year starts
with the
Royal Rumble.
Absolutely.
How's that sound?
That sounds amazing.
All right, sounds great. All right. Let's get into these predictions here. We've got the WWE Championship match. You've got Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. How do you see this one playing out?
I can't see a scenario in which you give the belt to Bobby Lashley at this point in time. Lesnar's over, and it's a absolutely dream match. The idea is to get Lashley the believability that he's a monster. So you could have Lashley not care and just pummel Lesnar, but Lesnar gets the win in a DQ. You can go a lot of different ways. I just hope it's not a wonky finish that pisses everybody off and leave a sour taste in everybody's mouth. But in the end, it's 1-2-3 Brock Lesnar in my mind.
All right, so I'm going completely different than you. I told you in the beginning, all right? We're already starting off different. Normally we are in lockstep with a lot of this stuff. And maybe that's how good of a job that they've done with this build. You've had Bobby Lashley get zero in this build with Brock Lesnar. I don't know how you send Bobby Lashley out there to face Brock Lesnar to then have him lose this match. Like, you have basically devalued him for 4 straight weeks. And then to put him in the biggest match of arguably his career to then have him get worked by Brock Lesnar. Where do you go from there? Like, you would have to hit a hard reset. You would have to take him off TV and at some point 3 months from now bring him back. That is the only way you could salvage him. And I don't think that's happening. And I see Bobby Lashley winning this match over Brock Lesnar. I think it's a close match. I think it's a good match. Remember, Brock Lesnar has some issues with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns could get involved. The Usos could get involved. Paul Heyman's in Brock Lesnar's corner. This whole thing with Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and Paul Heyman hasn't quite been resolved. There are many different avenues we can go where Bobby Lashley can win this and Brock can lose this. So I'm going to go Bobby on this one. Now let's fast forward to our Universal Championship match. We've got Roman Reigns taking on Seth Rollins. Remember, the Usos are banned from ringside, so there should be no interference here. How do you see this one playing out?
Now, you and I are kind of the same. We kind of pay attention to predictions. We kind of know the lay of the landscape. One of the wild ones I saw, I don't think it'll happen, but it's worth sharing, is Seth Rollins winning, and then Roman is one of the surprise entrants, and he wins it so that he can take on Brock at WrestleMania. Now, if this happens, I would go crazy. I think would you elevate at this point in time Seth Rollins? I don't think so. I think you set up just a dream matchup, belt versus belt. It's so much better. Belt versus belt, universal situation here, but I know the winner of the Rumble needs an opportunity. So the idea would be, potentially speaking, that would scrap my plans. In my mind, I don't see the champions at this point in time dropping the belt. I don't see Seth Rollins losing, or I don't see Roman Reigns losing to Seth Rollins at this point in time. It'll be a great match. It'll be definitely a quality finish to the feud, but give me Roman Reigns to leave the ring with the title.
I'm going to agree with you. I don't see you taking the belt off of Roman Reigns right now. I think everybody has to stand and acknowledge him. I think Roman Reigns wins this match over Seth Rollins, even though Seth Rollins is doing some of the best work of his career right now. Also, do you realize these guys haven't really gotten into a fight? They haven't had a wrestling match. Like, this has just been built off of talking. Like, it's so weird. There's been a little bit of physicality, but there's not been a match between these two. And I think that speaks to how good and how over both of these guys are and how great of a job that they're doing. All right, Raw Women's Championship, Becky Lynch versus Doudrop. I think this is an easy one. I'm just going to tag you in for Becky Lynch.
Yes, I am. Done.
Okay, cool. I'm going to put Becky Lynch down too. Then we've got Edge and Beth Phoenix taking on The Miz and Maurice. How do you see this one playing out?
See, everyone's saying Edge should win this, but how do you keep this feud going then? You know, and it's so tough too because everyone, you know, you sit here and you legitimately could go 50-50 on both sides. You could go chalk and you could say Edge and Beth Phoenix. It's played out and things like that. And that would get the crowd going. But at what point then does The Miz get over? You know, the last thing that we saw was Edge spoiling the birthday party. At what point does Miz get retribution? Do you continue to devalue The Miz? Remember, Miz and Maurice also lost to Cena and the Bellas. Do you do this again? I mean, Edge's role is to put people over. So I have to trust my gut. I feel like I'm wrong. I feel like you gave me the window by picking Lashley. I have to take a gamble. My gut says Miz. You have to pay it off. You have to use Edge for the reason that he's brought there. The right decision for business is to put over The Miz. That's how I have to go with this one.
All right, I'm not mad at you about it, but I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go Edge and Beth Phoenix. And the way I see this playing out, I think they get a win here, and I think this sets up a build towards WrestleMania. I think at WrestleMania, you'll have Edge taking on The Miz one-on-one. I think in this case right now, you get Beth Phoenix involved. I don't know how you devalue two Hall of Famers to lose to basically Miz, who I think we both agree is a great wrestler, and then Maurice. Like, Maurice has been nothing more than a valet. Like, I know she had a bit of a wrestling career, but she's been essentially nothing more than a valet. So in this case, I'm going to go with the Hall of Famers, with Edge and Beth Phoenix to win this match, and we'll set something up at WrestleMania. And at that time, The Miz could possibly get over on Edge, and I think you give him his WrestleMania moment. You kind of set him up there. All right, Royal Rumble. Remember, if you get the actual prediction correct, you get a bonus point. So you'll get credit towards the overall score, and then you get a +1 with the Royal Rumble predictions if you get it right. Now, the Royal Rumble has a ton of people involved. You've got Angelo Dawkins, Montez Ford, Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio. Austin Theory is a big name because he's been getting this Vince McMahon white glove treatment in a monster push. Damian Priest, AJ Styles, Big E, who recently got moved to SmackDown. Really, really weird. Sami Zayn, Madcap Moss, Kofi Kingston, Kevin Owens involved, Randy Orton involved, Matt Riddle involved, Chad Gable, Otis. We've talked about them already. You've got Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, among a myriad of other people, as well as some surprise entrances. Who do you think wins this match?
This one's tough, because there could be a situation where Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar is in the match. You could have a surprise. What do you do in this situation? It's so tough because everybody is, looking at the opportunity to see, a big event at WrestleMania. And does that mean Brock Lesnar drops the title? Does that mean it opens the door for you to say Brock Lesnar? I have to play that as well. This is tough, man. It's a tough thing. I'm just going to go with what I think is best for business, and I think you can't go with Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar. I can't see it. So I think it's time potentially to either have the two biggest stars be in there. It's going to be either Randy Orton or Kevin Owens. And for me, I think the guy that deserves a little bit of a main event push, maybe kind of reintroduce himself back into it, is Kevin Owens. So that's my pick to win it this year.
Not mad at it. I like it. In my world, what happens is Bobby Lashley defeats Brock Lesnar, Brock Lesnar enters himself into the Royal Rumble, and Brock Lesnar wins the whole damn thing, so he can then challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So Brock Lesnar is winning the Royal Rumble in my prediction. All right, let's move forward to the Women's Royal Rumble. You've got Charlotte Flair announced, Naomi, Rhea Ripley, Nikki ASH, the Bella Twins, Carmella, Lita, Michelle McCool, Kelly for some throwbacks. You've got Dana Brooke, Natalia, Mickie James gets to come in from Impact, Shayna Baszler, Summer Rae, Shotzi Blackheart, Bianca Belair. Does she win it 2 times in a row? We'll see. Announced on SmackDown, you've got Sonya Deville entering. Liv Morgan's there. She seems to be a crowd favorite. How do you see the Women's Royal Rumble playing out?
I have to go with the rumors, and Ronda Rousey comes back. That shocks the world. That gets you a name at WrestleMania for her to pick, and you can play out which brand does she want to challenge. Ronda Rousey. Easy.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with you. I think Ronda Rousey wins it, and I think what we end up getting is her challenging Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, and we get to see that match. If you remember, Becky Lynch basically dethroned Ronda Rousey, took the title off her at, I think it was WrestleMania, what is that, 30? I don't even know what we're at. We're in WrestleMania 35 or 36 right now, so it was 2 years ago she took the belt off of her, maybe 3 years ago. And Ronda Rousey hasn't been seen since. So I think Ronda Rousey comes back for some of that retribution, and this is how you get the belt off of Becky Lynch in a fantastic match between the two. Becky Lynch also recently called Ronda Rousey out over social media regarding it. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. WWE does a really good job of playing to the narrative, and we'll see what happens with that. All right, real quick to cover all of the bases here. Me and you differ with Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley. I've got Bobby Lashley. You've got Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns, we both think defeats Seth Rollins. We both have Becky Lynch defeating Doudrop. We differ again with The Miz and Maurice taking on Edge and Beth Phoenix. I've got Edge and Beth Phoenix. You've got Miz and Maurice. When it comes to the 30-man battle royal known as the Royal Rumble, I've got Brock Lesnar winning it. You've got Kevin Owens winning it. When it comes to the women's match, we both have Ronda Rousey. It should be interesting. We start fresh this year. We both have zeros on calling the card, and we'll see what happens there. Let's move into AEW, because I realized something this week about AEW. Watching AEW Dynamite, I realized that what AEW does so much better than WWE is they give you what you want. They give you good wrestling. They tell good stories. They help build to situations where you are completely invested and you want more. Watching Dynamite this week, I didn't want it to stop. Like we hit the hour and 58-minute mark, and I was like, oh man, this is going to end in 2 minutes. And like I was ready for bed. I was tired, but it was such a good show. AEW gives you things that makes you out loud say, oh, wow, oh my God, I can't believe that. Whereas what WWE does, it tends to have you shaking your head more times than not. And I say that because what we got with Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara was absolutely nuts. It was a fantastic match. It was so good that Dave Meltzer ended up giving it 5 stars. Like this show, this past Wednesday was essentially a pay-per-view quality show. Like there was no letdowns, no breaks. There was intrigue to build off of for the future, and it was opened up with a match where you had no promos. You basically had a challenger in the ring, and you had a competitor in the ring, and basically all they had to do was take off the robes, and you rang the bell, and then you got the next 25 minutes of nonstop crazy action with these dudes jumping off of ladders. Sammy Guevara climbed up on top of a ladder across from another ladder that Cody was on. He ends up jumping onto the very top step of the ladder to springboard off of it and hit a cutter off of the top of the ladder. When they hit the mat, I was like, oh my God. I was like, that is insane. And there were multiple spots in this match that were, oh my God, that is insane. Oh my God, how did they do that? Oh my God, that has to hurt. These guys laid it all on the line. This was a fantastic match. And we have crowned a new undisputed TNT champion in Sammy Guevara. I thought it was a fantastic match. I want to get your what you thought of this match. And I want to know, did this match make Sammy Guevara? Because Sammy Guevara was already a household name, but I think this match put him over and solidified him as that dude.
Best way to do it. Absolutely classic. And you said it. WWE does in big moments. You remember WrestleMania, they had a lot of wins for the faces, and you saw things that after the pandemic that they started to do. But yeah, not enough. They consistently outweigh the negativity and poor gimmicks and bad finishes and roll-ups and things that fans don't like and don't give you enough payoff, where AEW does a lot of good things in regards to payoff. And I think it's just a direct result. They're just like, okay, they know what pisses off WWE fans, and they just do the opposite. And Sammy Guevara winning was amazing. He can wrestle. Now, I think that once he matures personality-wise and gets into fully his character and the in-ring work and the development of his promos, I think you got a tool there that I think that's why the likes of Chris Jericho have seen something special. Cody Rhodes obviously has seen something special too, because he wouldn't go put him over if he didn't. Perfect way to do it. Sammy Guevara is over and he wins, and I think he's a great representative of the brand, and it made sense. And that's all you can ask for is, does the story make sense? Does the match pay it off? Ladder match was perfect. Both of them swinging, had the false finishes, the intrigue, and in the end, with Sammy winning, was absolutely fantastic. A+.
Yeah, I thought it was an incredible match. I thought it was awesome. Adding to intrigue and building for a story for the following week. We've got the Inner Circle on a precipice of breaking up. These were like 5 of the best friends that you've ever had, and they seem to be on this brink of destruction, where they're tearing each other from apart from the inside. You've got Santana and Ortiz in a 6-man tag where they don't bother tagging in Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho makes the move that helps the Inner Circle win the match against Daniel Garcia in 2.0. But it leads to a lot of speculation. What the hell is going on with the Inner Circle, and where are we going with this? And I want to know, do you see the Inner Circle breaking up? Do they end up going their own ways? Does the Inner Circle basically become Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara? Does it all just kind of disintegrate and everybody kind of goes their own way? How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, it should. They should break up. Great storytelling. At least I like the idea of the Boricuas saying, hey, why are we just doing your bidding? And if you heard the commentary, that was kind of snuck in there, in that Santana and Ortiz were like, hey, wait a minute. What are we doing here? What do we got going on here? Why are we in the background here? And they have been underplayed. I think that they are in a position to evolve and get out of the shadow of the Inner Circle. I can't wait to see the feuds potentially that could happen. But, you never know. Or if they stay together, just emphasize Santana and Ortiz a little bit more in the tag division instead of doing the bidding for Jericho all the time.
Yeah, I think at some point it probably would be best for everybody to kind of go on their own. I mean, at this point, Sammy Guevara is his own made man. Chris Jericho can kind of go do his own thing. Chris Jericho is essentially he will alter his character and alter whatever he's doing to fit whatever the narrative is and fit whatever has to get done to help get either somebody else over or get himself over. And I think you're right. The Boricuas can go and do their own thing, be more of a staple in that tag division, because they're an excellent tag team. They're so much fun to watch. I think it might be time for the Inner Circle to break up. This group has been held together now for over 3 years. It might be time to say no more Inner Circle. How much fun did you have watching Cassidy and Adam Cole? And you get a surprise guest appearance from Danhausen, who's now All Elite. I thought this was a really fun match. I thought this was a great match. I thought it played on everything, even with Orange Cassidy having what they claimed was a steel cup with thumbtacks in his crotch of his pants. So when he got low blowed by Adam Cole, it didn't hurt him. Adam Cole took the brunt of it and took the worst of it. I thought this was a really fun match. I thought this was a really good way to end the night. I thought this was an awesome show. I thought Danhausen coming out from underneath the ring was shocking. I thought it was weird. I thought it was a surprise. If you know anything about Danhausen, it kind of fits what he does. I'm not real familiar. I know who he is. When I seen his face, I knew who it was, but not real familiar with who he is. I implore everybody to go onto YouTube, watch some of his videos. He's very, very funny. He's comedic, but he's a very good wrestler at the same time.
Michigan native Danhausen. That was.
I didn't know he was from Michigan.
If you hold on, real fast, I'm gonna make sure I'm accurate here, being that I like to spit off the cuff here. Wikipedia, Danhausen, Danhausen, and it says, from what I recall, where did it come from? Oh, yeah. Born August 17th, 1990, age 31, Detroit, Michigan.
Really?
Danhausen, baby. I think that, the connection there in Metro Detroit caught a lot of people, but I think he's great, and I think he made a name for himself in the great Ring of Honor, and AEW has picked very quality individuals and performers from the now sort of extinct Ring of Honor, and they're going to do a great job promoting that brand.
Most definitely. What did you think about the way this match? What do you think about just this whole match? I thought it was great. I mean,
yeah,
everything, like every part of it. I mean, you had Danhausen in the middle of it.
Yeah, it was great. Personally though, I think Adam Cole could be positioned a little bit better in regards to, the star that he is. But hey, I think that the feud with Orange Cassidy is great. But I think what everybody's excited about is the potential Adam Cole Danhausen feud. Oh my God. I think that's just money. Put me down for it. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great too. I think this week in wrestling has been really good. I think it was capped off with some really good stuff from AEW. Really looking forward to the Royal Rumble tonight. I think it's going to be a fantastic show. And honestly, I can't wait to watch this. I feel like this might be one of the better Royal Rumbles that we've had in a long time, and I'm really looking forward to it. And overall, I thought it was, again, just a quality week of wrestling. I thought it was really, really good.
It was really good. I thought that everything that went on was quality. Everything that led up to the week was good. Really, when you look at it right now, the start of the year has been great. Also in the ring, but outside the ring, there is so much juicy drama that is great, and you're going to get into some of it. I think that there's so many great talking points that can bounce off from this. It is amazing, so I can't wait to get your sense of it. Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So like we talked about earlier, Cody Rhodes working in AEW. His contract situation is really strange. He reported that he is working on that handshake deal with AEW, meaning he has no contract, meaning he could show up at the Royal Rumble. Don't think it's going to happen, but it'd be really interesting if it did. Now, the Iconics were offered a spot in the Royal Rumble this weekend and turned it down, saying it was not the right time or the fit for them. It seems like WWE is only trying to work with former WWE talent when it comes to the Forbidden Door. They haven't really gone out and grabbed anybody new or different. That's why you've got somebody like Mickie James. You've got somebody like the Iconics trying to get brought back in and looped into that circle. So it'll be interesting to see if they do go outside that box. Talking about people who may make an appearance, they're very high on Roxy. I don't know if Roxy gets brought in and shows up at the Royal Rumble and then goes to NXT. It'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there. Now, Nick Khan has denied that WWE is actively looking to sell the company. But in a recent interview, he stated that they have taken calls on the purchase of the company. I want to get your gauge. What company do you think would be the best fit for WWE? Some big time players are Fox, NBC Universal. Remember, Fox has SmackDown, NBC Universal has Monday Night Raw, as well as NXT, or Disney. Which one of those three companies do you think would be the best fit for WWE?
Absolutely, it would be Disney. That way you could start the promotion with could potentially ESPN, the cross promotion, the things like that. Outside the box too, if you really, really want to get into it and really have a great brand, maybe the company affiliated with the UFC would be something that would be interested and intrigued because of the connection with Lesnar and Lashley and things like that. But yeah, any of the major companies, Disney, Fox, Paramount, anyone that needs the streams that needs their stuff, potentially on there. You never know. How this goes. NBC Universal, maybe power play and just own the outright company. Listen, I think it's just basically at this point in time, do they want the big infusion of cash and still control? I mean, you still got Triple H, who's recovering from his heart situation. You still got Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon. Is it one of those deals where you get a couple $1 billion in cash and you get to retain 49% and run the company. Who knows? I just think that why sell? The company makes money. It's going great. Everything's in line to move forward. People talk about it. Millions of podcasts talk about it. Yeah, there's a lot of criticisms, and yeah, I understand a couple $1 billion in your bank account, but your company owned it. You built it. I just don't see it yet. I think that Nick Khan is right to continue to keep that potentially afloat, but unless the offer's right, I don't see them selling.
Yeah, I don't see them selling either, but I think if there was a company that they should look at, it probably would be Disney. I don't think a lot of people realize how much Fox owns, how much NBC owns, and what all Disney actually owns. Disney owns your local ABC channels. Disney owns ESPN. Disney owns, obviously, Disney, as well as a bunch of other conglomerates. So I think Disney would probably be the direction for them if they were looking to sell to anybody. Now, Finn Balor says he was burned out from the WWE politics before his NXT return. Appearing on the Mark Andrews My Love Letter to Wrestling podcast, he revealed that he had been burnt out by the backstage BS in WWE. He said, I think it's yet to come, his prime he's referring to. I feel like I had got a little bit stale, and I was just kind of like, I was tired. I was exhausted. I was kind of like worn out by dealing with the politics and the office and the writers and all of everything that goes in with it. I just had enough. And when I returned to NXT, I really felt like that rejuvenated me in the ring. And once one thing I felt helped in all the negative effects of the pandemic. So going back to NXT maybe helped save Finn Balor's WWE career. We talked about it last week. WWE does not see him as a future talent. They see him as a guy to help get some of the newer talent over. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think Finn Balor would be a great guy to go to AEW, and I think you could do some really awesome things over in AEW. Now, Jeff Hardy, this just came out the other day. Jeff Hardy said no to WWE. After being released by WWE, the WWE double-backed and offered Jeff Hardy a spot in this year's Hall of Fame. Jeff Hardy said, no, I'm good, and told them no. Also, Hardy is still under his non-compete following his release. We can expect to see him, and I'm just going to put it out there, we can expect to see him in AEW after March 9th when that non-compete expires. So really, really interesting stuff there by the WWE, who basically thought he was on drugs, offered him rehab. He said no, released him, ends up coming back to him like, hey, you want to be in the Hall of Fame? And he was like, I'm good. Really interesting things, the way WWE works and how things just kind of get done in WWE. But that's it for this week's wrestling news and notes.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure you follow along as we break down the Royal Rumble tonight. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good time. A lot of fun, a lot of intrigue, a lot of surprises. One of the marquee events. A lot of times where you get to see the crowds pop with the returns, the surprises, the fun and pageantry of the Royal Rumble. It'll be great. And then next week, I'll get your unique perspective of family members who were there, flew to St. Louis to be there, stayed in the hotel with performers, got to see. And just quick story, my brother-in-law said, John, he's like, Ric Flair walks in and everybody just gravitates towards him. He's still got it. And it's just one of those things where the persona of Ric Flair just draws attention. And I can see it. I'm like, I know. It's just, everybody would love that. It's just the way in which his life has preceded the character of Ric Flair. That's the crazy psychological dynamic is the real man kind of got wrapped up in it and might have caused him some problems in his life. But the aura that surrounds him is still so great. It's Ric Flair because of he's one of a handful of people like The Rock, Stone Cold, Cena that transcended wrestling that even athletes love to portray and represent and things like that. So to get that sense of what it was like for them, I can't wait to share that and pass that along to you. Can't wait to have a good night tonight, watching some wrestling, good or bad or indifferent. It'll be a fun time as the Royal Rumble takes place Saturday night, breaking it all down in the world of professional wrestling here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Anywhere you listen to your favorite broadcast and podcast, make sure that you type in Detroit Sports Podcast and our content will find you. Doc and Jock weekends. Love it. Love breaking down the world of professional wrestling, and a lot of great things are going to come from tonight's event. Thanks, everybody. Let's talk next weekend.